my name's Gail and I'm currently doing a PhD at the University of York in the UK. I'm a tropical ecologist and I work on trees, and I'm studying the effectiveness of forest fragments in conserving tree biodiversity as time goes on. I collect most of my data in Sabah, Malaysia, which is part of the island of Borneo. And in Borneo, as in much of Southeast Asia and other parts of the tropics, oil palm expansion has replaced a lot of the lowland tropical rainforest, which is a hugely biodiverse ecosystem. But there remain lots of patches of forest within these huge oil palm plantations, and so I'm studying how good these patches of forest are at maintaining species, and obviously I study trees, so that's what I'm looking at. So I travel around to lots of these different patches of forest across the state of Sabah, collecting my data, which involves finding out how many species there are, what the sort of range of sizes of trees there are of each species, and how this differs in different patches of forest. And then I compare those patches of forest to areas of forest in primary forest and in logged forest, and these sites, the primary and logged forest sites, are in like really big continuous tracts of forest, which we find towards the centre of the island. This sort of research is important because we need to know if it's worth conserving these patches of forest. There's been lots of research done which shows that there's a gradual loss of other species from forest patches. Pollinators like bees and other insects, loss of birds and mammals, and so we want to also know what the effect on trees is going to be in the long term. Because trees are so long-lived, they're slightly different, and we have to study them in a different way. Because a tree can remain in a place for a very long time, so it's not actually extinct, but it might be functionally extinct if it's not producing any seedlings. And this is what I'm investigating. And what we suspect might be happening is that in the smaller fragments, trees are failing to produce any seedlings, which could be a real problem long term. And this all feeds into the debate which has been going on for many decades about whether it's better to conserve just lots of continuous forest and put all of our resources into improving that forest and maintaining it, or whether it's better to have lots of little patches of forest spread across the land, where you might get more of a variety of different species depending on the variety of other conditions that we find in different parts of the country. So my research is ongoing. I haven't come up with any definite conclusions yet, but what we suspect is that that maybe some of the smaller patches aren't really worth conserving, but what would be best of all is if we could connect up all these small patches of forest with their different species with the forest in the mainland, and then we can conserve the maximum number of species and make these forest patches really worth saving.
How is your research going to help the management of those areas?
Well, hopefully my research can help to inform and advise policymakers in the local area within the state of Sabah to make decisions regarding how to best conserve their natural resources. And my research group at the university, led by Professor Jane Hill, already does a lot of what we call knowledge exchange, where we use our research to guide and inform those policymakers that are making all the important decisions in the area.
Do you have a positive view of the future of those areas? Do you think they're gonna be preserved and gonna be better managed?
I hope so, and the Sabah government's already going some way towards trying to improve what they've got. They've also committed to not cut down any more primary rainforest, and primary rainforest is rainforest that hasn't been logged or disturbed in any big way. So it's really, really valuable for animals and birds and insects and all the other biodiversity, as well as for the trees. So they seem to have a positive commitment to conserving what's left of their natural resources. So I've got a positive outlook for the future of the rainforest.
Why is oil palm production growing so rapidly?
Well, oil palm's a really good crop and is what we call really high yielding, which means that you get a lot of bang for your buck. That is, you can produce a lot of oil over a very small area, and this means that it is very economically it's really good for the economy, and it grows really well where lowland rainforest would have once stood, which is unfortunate, but it's difficult to criticise because in Europe a lot of our land is now covered in agricultural crops, which would once have hosted really diverse native ecosystems. So what we need to do is partner up, advise based on our experience and knowledge. We need to advise these countries how to best make use of their land so that they can grow these crops, which are really important for economic development, while also trying to conserve some of their native biodiversity, which is so important for the world and for their own economies as well.
What can we as consumers do to minimize the impact of oil palm consumption?
It's really difficult to avoid consuming oil palm because oil palm, or like palm oil, and loads of derivatives that come from palm oil are used in many processed products, like biscuits, most processed goods that you'll buy in the supermarket, but also detergents, other soaps that you might use, loads of products, and it's also used as a fuel. So it's very difficult to avoid it. But what you can do is look for products which, if they contain oil palm, say they contain sustainable palm oil and have the RSPO logo on the packaging. And this means that the plantation that's produced the oil palm has undergone many checks from the RSPO, and they have to comply to certain things which benefits both the environment and the local society in the area surrounding and within the oil palm plantation. So that's what I would recommend to do. Check out the RSPO logo.